Hi, everybody. Mitch Tanenbaum here. Thanks for joining me today. This is the security news update for August 28th, 2022. Starting off with cyber attacks, large scale cyber attacks. Google claims to have fended off a 46 million packet per second attack that went from zero to initially 10,000 packets per second to 100,000 and then finally to 46 million. The victim was a customer of Google's denial of service prevention or mitigation services, and they were actually able to fend off the attack, likely at 46 million packets per second. If people were trying to do this on their own, it would just crash. And the downside of that is what internet service providers will do if if you're in a position where you get hit with that kind of attack and you are taking down the rest of their infrastructure, they'll just what's called black hole you, meaning they will take you offline proactively so that they don't affect other customers. What that means is that you probably ought to have some kind of prevention in place so that your ISP doesn't make you disappear and go dark. On the reference side, the California Privacy Commission has released an early draft of what the new regulations are going to look like for companies that do business in California. They're talking about opt-outs and notices and stuff like that. So if you do business in California, this is probably required reading for you. In the software and hardware section, we've seen things like this before, but this is called the OMG USB cable. What this guy has done, which he sells, by the way, for a few $100 if you want to buy one, a USB cable that looks like a USB cable, but what it's got is a built-in Wi-Fi and a built-in web server, so that if you can somehow convince somebody to use this cable, either by literally replacing the existing cable with this person's cable, which is probably the most reasonable way to go do this kind of attack, or somehow get them to go do that, then you can have access to anything that is going on that computer. And in fact, you can even inject keystrokes into the computer, because USB ports obviously can look like keyboards, and it doesn't know any better. So if you tell it it's a keyboard, then it'll believe you, and voila, you now can go off and type to your virtual heart's content whatever it is you want to do. In the federal privacy legislation section, Washington is still trying to figure out what they're going to do. From what I'm reading, it doesn't look like the odds of any kind of federal privacy regulation happening this year are good. In fact, they're all but dead. But 4 more states still are considering. We have 5 now. The 4 are kind of all over I guess sort of mostly on the east side: Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. But politically, they're in different places. And so we'll see what happens there. That could put us at 6, 7, 8, 9 states with different forms of privacy legislation by the end of this year. And a bunch of attorney generals have sent out complaints or concerns about what the current legislation is called, the American Data Privacy and Protection Act. They're saying they don't like it. So we shall see, but I don't think the odds of it passing are very good. Also on the legal front, Oracle is being sued over privacy violation. Most people don't think of Oracle as a big privacy vendor. It turns out that they are a huge data broker, and they sell buckets of data. They claim that they have anonymized this data, but as we've seen many, many times, truly anonymizing data basically gets rid of its value. And so it's not really anonymized. And so remember, they're being sued in California. Under California law, people can claim up to $750 worth of damages without proving that they've been harmed. So if you have a million California residents, which is what, like 3% of California. That could be a potential $750 million judgment against California. Obviously, if there's more than a million California residents who join this class action, then the number goes up from there. But it could be a large number. In Colorado, where I am, the Mesa County election deputy, who is the person who reports to Tina Peters, has flipped. She was charged with all kinds of things related to fraud and dereliction of duty and trying to compromise the vote, all kinds of things like that. She pleaded guilty to several minor crimes, official misconduct, and some other things. But in exchange for that, she agreed to testify against her boss, Tina Peters, which has got to make Peters really, really nervous, because apparently she's going to claim that Peters directed her to break the law. So we shall see where that goes. The judge was not happy with her avoiding jail time in exchange for this, but I think the feds really want to go after Peters as the ringleader of all this. So we shall see where it goes. But if I was Peters, I'd be really, really nervous right now. In the breaches column, this one's a biggie. I am quite amazed, even for me, quite amazed at this. Hackers apparently stole 1.2 billion with a B dollars from Akala's liquidity pool, crashing that cryptocurrency. The reality is that blockchain is software, and as long as blockchain continues to be software, it's going to be hacked because people are pushing this out as fast as they can without regard to any kind of security concerns. And basically the stock went to, or the value of it went to zero, or pretty much close to zero, as close as you can get. This is not the last one. There's going to be a lot more. But I saw a number that said that the overall losses from cryptocurrency and non-fungible tokens, NFTs, is in the trillions of dollars, and that includes investors who were scammed out of it, not just hacked. So not great. California has fined Sephora $1.2 million for privacy violations. One more time, they did not honor the opt-out request from consumers. That's a big no-no in California. You can't do that. And they also were selling the data without telling people. So, in terms of cost, $1.2 million is not a big number for them, I'm sure, but they'll pay, that seven-figure fine plus legal costs plus business disruption. Plus now they're required to go build all the protections that they were supposed to have before. And the attorney general is going to be looking over their shoulder for the next few years to a decade. So we shall see. The attorney general said this is just the beginning, and I believe that. They're pretty notorious for that kind of thing in terms of going after people. And finally, in the legal section, Liberty Counsel, who is a consortium of nonprofit religious organizations, or claims that they are, because I say claims because they seem to do an awful lot of semi-political stuff, which as a nonprofit you're not supposed to do. Anyway, some people were upset with them. They hacked their vendor and revealed their 25 gig worth of donor data and email campaigns and stuff like that. But that apparently was only the beginning of that particular breach. As I said, it was a vendor. And now we know that there's another over 400 gigabytes worth of data from dozens and dozens of other Christian organizations that was also stolen. I suspect that this will leak, and I suspect the government will start looking at whether or not these nonprofits are engaging in political activities, which nonprofits are not supposed to do. That's a conflict with their nonprofit status. So don't know what's going to happen there, but I'm sure there's a lot of nonprofits that are now nervous that their data was compromised and they actually weren't even aware of it until just now. The FTC, not only is California going against after people who have challenges with following privacy laws, but the FTC is doing that too. Their most recent plan was to go after a data broker in Iowa that they're saying, where have we heard this? Like 5 minutes ago. They're selling de-anonymized data, which the FTC says, not really anonymous. And I intend to agree with the FTC on this one. It's probably not very anonymous. Company, of course, says it's completely legal, and we shall see where this goes. If nothing else, it's a huge distraction, and it's going to cost these guys a lot in legal fees. So we'll see what happens with that. As I reported several months ago, Lloyd's of London was kind of raising a flag that said we're going to go off and exclude state-sponsored hacking. They're now saying that effective March of next year, every policy that they underwrite, which is a large chunk of policies, no matter who your insurer is, has to have an exclusion for state-sponsored cyber terrorism. We don't really know what state-sponsored cyber terrorism, but you got to exclude it. It's gonna be a windfall for lawyers as they fight back and forth, assuming the insurance companies go after these guys. I think it's much more likely that they're going to go after this clause on larger claims rather than smaller claims. It's just not worth it to fight the smaller claims. But you probably ought to look at what, when you renew your policy. Remember, there's nothing to stop the insurance company from saying, yes, we must have this by March, but we could do this in September. So when you renew your policy, make sure you look and see what it says. If you need help with that, let us know. We do that. So we can certainly help you with that. Next, our friends at Twilio. They're the guys that help big companies with their electronic messaging, text messaging, other things like that. Well, it turns out not only was, and the news was that Signal was hacked, and not that Signal was hacked, but Signal used Twilio. Their credentials were hacked, and so they were sort of second-degree hacked as a result of that. Turns out, because of the way Signal was designed, no data was compromised. But we're now hearing that over 100 other companies, some well-known companies, were also part of this because, again, they were part of the Twilio universe. So just one more time where vendor cyber risk management is critical. I'm sure we'll find out whether Twilio's security practices were good or not. I don't know. But there will be lots of lawsuits to help figure that one out for sure. And last but not least, a few news bites. The Mozilla, the nonprofit that runs Firefox and others, tested 25 pregnancy apps, and they said out of the 25, 18 of them were either leaking data or selling data blatantly. So what that says is if you care about that, such as if you're in a state where abortion is an issue and you don't want to reveal that kind of data, probably the only thing to go do is stop using those kind of apps, because if 18 out of 25 is leaking data, probably the other 7 are also leaking data, just to a different degree. The NSO Group, the Israeli company that hacks phones for a living, who's been under super intense scrutiny for the last year or two because their basic policy was we will sell you our technology as long as your check clears. Their CEO and co-founder just resigned, and they laid off a bunch of people. So about 20% of their staff, they're going to go for fire sale. There was a U.S. company that was trying to buy them. That was L3 Harris, the defense contractor, that got scuttled. So I don't know what is going to happen with that, but eventually that will hopefully they'll find somebody who's willing to buy them, but I don't know. Next, the city of Portland is in trouble because it gave hackers almost $1.5 million accidentally. It was a business email compromise attack. The thing that's a little bad about this oopsie is that the city treasurer said, "Oh, this looks kind of fishy. You need to investigate." And for whatever reason, probably most likely poor training. The employees just responded to the business email compromise email and said, "Hey, is this legit?" And the hacker said, "Oh, sure, it's legit." So they paid him. The only reason they caught him is the guy figured, well, these guys are dumb. Let me try this again. And they tried it again, the hackers, and this time they did not pay them another $1.4 million. They haven't found the people, but at least they didn't pay them $2.8 million. They only lost $1.4 million. And finally, and I keep harping on this, people say, oh, open source software is way more secure because people can look at the source code. Technically, that is true. People can look at the source code. Do people look at the source code? Yeah, I don't think so. And in this particular case, Linux is probably the most popular piece of open source software on the planet. This particular bug in the kernel, which allowed you to go off and elevate your permissions, has been around for 8 years. So that doesn't bode well for a claim that open source equals safe. I don't think that means that open source is not safe. I think it points to that open source is software, just like all other kinds of software, and software has bugs, and sometimes you'll detect bugs and sometimes you won't. So with that, if you need help with any of these items, please reach out to us, of course. Otherwise, until next time, thanks for listening.
Turnkey Cybersecurity and Privacy Solutions offers the complete cybersecurity program for small to medium-sized businesses. They include everything needed to secure your business and meet compliance requirements. Visit our website at turnkeycybersecurityandprivacysolutions.com to learn more.